Stepping into the guest seat, Alex Hormozi, I'm going to mess it up, Hormozi, a first-generation Iranian-American entrepreneur. I just spent the morning with him. We did his podcast. I was a guest. He's an investor, a philanthropist, known for his expertise in customer acquisition and monetization. It's a huge deal on YouTube, has done some amazingly large business deals, including scaled and exited 7 companies for in excess of $46 million. So been a joy hanging out with this young guy. He's getting things done. 1.3 million YouTube subscribers. Welcome. Good to have you, brother.
I'm honored to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you with us. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, this is big. I've been following you on YouTube for a long time. And then we had Graham Stephan on. I was on his show, and he was like, you got to hang out with Alex. So you're on now. And what's interesting is that you mentioned in one of your YouTube videos that Dave gave Graham Stephan some of the wisest advice you'd ever heard around investing, and I want you to share that.
So Graham had his big pie chart of his investments on the table, and he said, Dave, what am I doing wrong here? What should I be doing? And Dave, rather than just like giving him like, oh, you need to be 16% here and 13% here, he said, well, if this pie chart were your knowledge and expertise, how would you divide it up? He's like, well, I'd probably say I'm 85% real estate, maybe like 15% like my knowledge of stocks. And that more or less mirrored what Graham's actual investment portfolio looked like. And the big takeaway that I had when I was seeing that was it wasn't one particular methodology. It wasn't like, oh, you got to get into stocks. You got to get into crypto. You got to get into, no, obviously, like, I'm baiting, right? But it was more so do what you know. And when my wife and I exited our company and we had taken sizable distributions prior to that, I hadn't really come up with an investment strategy because the investment strategy was in the beginning, don't be poor.
It's a good start.
It's a good one. I like that one.
But then after that, it was just like I had everything in indexes and I wanted to take a more active role. And the only thing I felt like I knew good enough was business. And so I'd gone all the way to the edge on, 2, 3, 4 big real estate transactions. And right before I needed to send the money, I pulled back because I was like, I don't know this stuff. And so once I basically gave myself permission, or I felt like you'd give me some sort of like verbal permission to just do what I know, acquisition.com kind of started and became our family office for everything that we do investing, which is exclusively businesses that we feel like we can add value to.
Yeah, and it's a space you're comfortable in. You should never put money in something that you don't understand and don't know. And because some guy in a good suit said to, and the only thing he may own is a good suit. So that's probably not where we're taking the advice. So really, that's really, really, really important. Okay, so you started with nothing, over $50 million net worth, in excess of that on this one transaction.
Yeah,
so
just this one.
I know you're probably north of $100 million at that point. The Iranian American.
Mm-hmm.
So you're first generation
first
American.
Yeah.
Okay, so your parents came from Iran,
Mm-hmm.
Both?
Just my dad.
Just your dad. Okay.
Mom's
I've
born
got
in
a really
France.
good friend that both of his parents came here, and also unbelievably successful and financially. And sometimes I think I was talking to my friend Brian Buffini, who's Irish, and he has a book out called The Immigrant Edge.
Uh-huh.
And so the mentality that comes off that, George's parents he's first generation
Middle Eastern.
Oh, I didn't know
that.
as well.
Okay.
So there's an immigrant edge that goes with that. What is you think the number one mindset as you work with investors and companies that keeps people broke?
They subscribe to what everyone else around them who is poor tells them about how to get rich. So they take poor people's advice on how to make money.
Mm.
And so as a result of that, they keep doing the wrong stuff, or they don't do anything at all. And a lot of them sit into this area of, the paralysis analysis. They're like, I need to find the perfect thing. And meanwhile, 10 years later, they're still trying to wait to find the perfect thing. And they haven't started anything.
Yeah. How do you become a writer? Right.
Yeah.
How do you become an investor? Invest.
Yeah. I used to, because I talk a lot about sales stuff because I think it's a really good entry thing for anybody who wants to, take control of their own income and cost no money to get into, and all you have is skill. Is that, you can read 100 books on sales, but the first 1,000 cold calls you do, you'll learn more than all the books that you read up to that point.
Experience is a mighty teacher.
Oh, 100%. And it's interesting with skill proficiency, but people will put off, it takes 20 hours of concentrated work to become proficient at most skills, like playing the guitar, playing the piano, learning to do a cold call, 20 hours proficient of actual dedicated work. But people will wait a decade to do those first 20 hours because they're afraid.
Fear's holding them back because they don't want to fail a lot of the times.
Yeah, they don't want the judgment that they think is coming along from people who aren't actually paying attention to them to begin with.
Multimillionaire, young age, entrepreneur Alex Hermosa, our guest this segment. You can catch him on YouTube. Be sure and look that up. That's HORMOZI if you don't know. And you can check him out at his website at acquisition.com. So what do you feel like? I mean, you had a couple really big hits along the way. The liquidity event was a big hit, but the building up was gradual. And I mean, it wasn't like you hit the lottery in 20 minutes, had this kind of net worth. But so you built a company, sold it, and that was a lot of it. What do you think all of that has taught you about building wealth out there in America today? A, is it possible? And B, what do you think this sense of hope or this sense of principles around it? What's your takeaway?
So A, 100% possible. B, I think I define sadness as ignorance, as in you don't know what options you have. And so like whenever you feel hopeless, it's because you don't know what to do. And so when I felt sad in my life, I think to myself like, this is because I don't know what to do, which means that this is a problem I can solve because all I have to do is figure out what I need to do. And then that even gives me my first action step, which is like, oh, I just don't know. Great. And so for me, solving that has been a perpetual education process. And nowadays there's so much free information that exists on the internet. Like you can learn how to flip houses. You can learn how to sell. You can learn how to code. You can learn how to edit videos. Like there are all these skills that pay entry level roles, 50, 60, 70, 100, $200,000 a year that you can learn in 8 weeks. And so for the people who are willing to just put in the 8 weeks and then apply for the jobs, you can get way ahead.
Well, there's a lot of young people out there, and I get the messages. They're 17, they're 18, They call into the show. They're going, hey, I want to invest. I want to build wealth. I don't want to wait till I'm 60. I don't want to work a job I hate and do the 401k thing. They want to make money really quickly, and a lot of the times they want to do it the wrong way. What is the advice you constantly give those folks?
Yeah, so I say, like, you can invest in the S&P 500. I was like, but I prefer people invest in the SME 500, which is you're always going to get higher returns on investing in your own education, your own skill set, compared to any stock market. And so like a really real example of this is a buddy of mine has a daughter. She's 17. I think she just turned 18. And she was working at a bowling alley, minimum wage job, popcorn, right? And she said, or he told her, he's like, you can triple your income if you just get a certification to become a phlebotomist. It takes 2 days. It's $500. And by taking $500, she could invest in the S&P 500, and at 18 years old, maybe there'd be a ton of compounding. But if she invests $500 in getting the certification and then 2 days later, she triples her income, probably a better investment in buying the certification than forever having a 3 times higher baseline for what she can make. And I think that's just like a micro example of how much skills can give you more cash flow to invest in everything else. And so my belief is always keep reinvesting in skills because that raises your lifeline, your lifetime baseline of earning potential.
That's so good.
And valuable education is always costs minuscule amounts. Not all education, but I said valuable, usable, utilitarian value. She can immediately go and do something with that. It's not like I collect degrees for a living. No, this is like, but studying something that is usable 100% of the time is the best investment you can make.
My father came here with $1,000 and he didn't speak English, but he had a medical degree. And so he's always been big on education for me. And if you look at it as an actual investment, I mean, he fled during the revolution in Iran. He said, they took everything we had, but they couldn't take my education. And so it's something that can never be taken from you. You can't lose it in a divorce. You can't be taxed on it. On your education itself, it appreciates with time, and then the more educated you become, the more valuable each prior skill adds on top. It compounds.
That's good.
Like if you know how to do math, then you can then learn accounting. When you learn accounting, then you can learn investing or business or what, and like each one compounds unto itself.